Okay, here we go with the third and final part of the review for your guys' focus stack assignment. And we have this nice little shell. I have no idea how big it is, but based on the texture of what it's on, I assume it's not terribly big, that it's a fairly small shell. And I would say that the focus stacking worked really very well for it. So you did a good job. It's all sharp all the way around everything. We can see that it's falling off right behind it as we're losing a sense of this texture. So this is done pretty well. Remember in an earlier example, I told you about using the healing brush to move texture. Well, if we wanted to pull this texture up, the first thing we ought to do is take the time to go and select this shell and then invert that so that the shell is masked and the outside of this is selected. So that would be step number one. I'm not going to do that because I just want to show you the principle here. So I come up over here to the healing brush, not the spot healing brush, the healing brush. And it works in exactly the same way as the clone stamp tool does, except it only picks up texture. So if I come over here and I hold down the Alt key and pick up this texture, I can now apply that texture up over that non-textured part. And if I had a big enough, soft enough brush, I could blend them. And if I did this on a second layer, I could blend it even better. And then by adjusting the opacity of that layer, I could make it fade or move around pretty easily. And on a separate layer, I could pick that up and move it around to line up the lines on it. So you've got a lot of possibilities here. Well, we have a nice little pastoral scene here, the rolling wooden fence put together down the long and dusty winding road. This is a nice concept piece. We've got a little bit of flair in there. It's a warm piece. We might even be able to warm this up a little with some color, but let's deal first of all with the assignment, the focus stack. It worked really well. We've got stuff from this rail down to this post. Might have been nice if this post was sharp too, but you did a good job moving this on down the line. The next thing we might do is add some tone in here. If this is a late afternoon, we don't want to make this too contrasty because it would spoil the fun of this. But I'm going to make another layer. So whatever I do on it, I can blend it forward or back. And then I'm going to pick a color that's, say, a really nice yellowish sunset color, maybe something like that. Maybe just a little more orange in it. I'm going to set a brush. I want it to be very light and very, very soft, which it is. Yeah, I'm going to make it very big here. Now I can drop that opacity just a little. I can put a little of that yellow in the sky and make this considerably warmer overall without messing up this grass. If I wanted to do this with the photo filter, I would end up doing it over all of that grass, and then I would have to blend it all back somehow. But this gives me an easy way to do that. I do believe that, I'm going to flatten this, I do believe that that front post is bothersome, so I'm going to get rid of that. so that we really have this sweep as far as we can see. Okay, nice concept. Here we have a nice detail of the stamen of this flower. This is very cool. We've already started to abstract it. The focus stack works fine. You've definitely got all of the internals of the flower, the petals. Everything is nice and sharp. I would just say you don't need all of this stuff over here, and I would pull it in more. If you like this type of work, then I would seriously go and look at the paintings of Georgia O'Keeffe, who did very close-up, detailed stuff of flowers. Very close, very abstract, and created some really extraordinary, very sensual paintings. But with this, now we get to the essence of this subject. I think the tighter crop makes for a really interesting graphic image that would look really nice on a wall somewhere. So, good job. Well, I have no idea what this plant is. At first, I thought it was a cactus when I looked at it from afar, but I'm not really sure. It could be a bunch of Martian citizens being sprouted from the bowl with their little arms outraised, looking for food. I mean, it's an interesting shot. Some of this stuff up in here is a little distracting. We've got our central movement here. We've got the information for the shot is all down in here. So, again, I would come in and make this tighter. We've already chopped off the top of it here anyway, so it's clear that we don't need that. We don't need the bottom of it. I don't think we need much of any of that. So sometimes I look at the work, particularly of folks that are just getting into photography, and I think you've got to be willing to get in close. I understand when you do it in the camera. If you've shot this in your camera, you couldn't go back out unless you took extra shots. But you have a digital camera. You can take all of the shots you ever wanted. So take those normal shots, the one you see that you think is good, then move in. Take some closer ones. Look for another crop. Look for another angle. Look for a way to save having to crop that shot in the end. But then, once you're in post, you can do this. If you don't like this, if you wanted to go back to the opening, no problem. You come over here to the history, and you say open, and there you are. You want to check it out? There it is, back cropped again. So you have all of this power at your disposal to make decisions, both on the spot and later, and at no cost. It's not like you've burned up sheets of film to do this. So here we have a nice little dandelion. Boy, this is early in the year. This has already gone to seed. Wow. But again, you've put this as a target right square in the middle of it. So yes, we have our focus stack, and yes, we've got stuff that is sharp, but you're looking down at the ground, and you're not that close to it. So I'm not sure it needed all of that much effort, that really this could have been done with a single shot. What did we do this at? This is a 38 millimeter at f8. Oh man, you really didn't need much focus stacking to do this. Now, had you decided that your shot was, I don't know, let's say here, and that was in your camera, now you would have been so much closer that a focus stack would have been almost mandatory. And even as it is now, there's still some areas that are not quite sharp. And one of the big issues is, what is this? Is that a creature of some kind down there? Looks like it. Looks like a some type of insect on that little plant bud. I'm sorry. Well, that's something we need to move in on. We need to be in very tight on that. The size of this won't hold up to a lot of enlargement, but I'll bet we can get closer. We can make this even more about that little creature. Now, when we bring that up full screen, it's starting to pixelate a little, but now we can start seeing the action that's going on in this image. Very cool. Wow, now that, folks, is red. You know what? I think this red is so brilliant as a natural red that it's overpowering your shot. Your exposure, I think, is probably fine. But remember early on, you might recall me telling you that the problem with red is that it oversaturates so easily. So I'm going to come up and grab the hue and saturation, and I'm just going to take the reds, that's all, and drop the saturation a little. Good grief, there's all kinds of information in there. Now, the problem is, of course, that made it a little darker, so I can lighten things up a little, but that's destroying my saturation again, so let's find a happy medium. Maybe in there. At least now we've got all these veins. We've got everything we can look at. And where in this image, there's a beautiful image with the red against the green. Where is our shot? It's here. What is this green doing? Well, it's providing a nice contrast to the red. This is really, really nice, this out of focus bud, but the real shot is over here. So remember, sometimes you've got some nice things that you just don't need. This is actually a pretty nice square shot, or nearly square. Really nice use of color. Done a good job with this. We could darken the color if we wanted this to stand out a little more, but I think the red is so bright. Our eyes respond to reds as they do, that we don't really need to play much with this to make it stand out. So you did a nice job in this. This is like the pair that came up for the DJ setup. One is shallow, one shows more of a focus, perhaps the focus stack. Maybe you really did a focus stack in here. But this shot is not a single image from that focus stack. This is just a shallow depth of field. This is in some ways simply a repeat of the depth of field assignment, not precisely the focus stack assignment. But since this is the one that theoretically has the focus stack, this is the one I'm going to take, and it's a little washed out. So let's see if I can bring this down. Let's see if I can do it the standard way. With adjustments, I'm going to bring my curves down. Yeah, I might be able to do it just with curves. And with that, put some of this detail back into this flower. So let's say okay. Then I want to do a little bit of burning and dodging on this. So I'm going to do it the right way. I'll make a layer, new layer. I want it to be an overlay layer, and so I want it to fill with gray. I'll say OK. I'll take my black brush, set it down. It's down to about 12%, which is good. First thing I'm going to do is darken some of the surrounding area. And then I'm going to go in and see if I can bring out some information and detail on this flower a little better. Okay, so we've got that. Now, let's see if we can make this stand out. We've got a couple of options here. Our problem is we've got a strong direction going this way, the way the flower is facing. So there's a sense that our direction is coming up and then out this way. There is almost nothing that's moving back this way. So that means we've got to be really careful about what happens in this direction. And we want to leave it a little room to move. The problem is this is all really nice stuff in here. The ideal situation would be one where we could come in and leave some of this red material. But now we've got this strong direction blasted up against this side. This is something when you're taking the shot you really need to think about. Don't just take snapshots. Make photographs. Stop. Take your time. Look at those images in the viewfinder and say, what's happening with the movement? Where is it going? What's the composition looking like? Can we move this a little more this way? Maybe. If we give this just a touch more, so we have to sacrifice some of this. Now, what we could do is pick up some of this color and blend it in behind here and fill in some of this space with that pink. We could do that. It's a lot of extra work that you wouldn't have had to do with maybe a slightly different angle on the flower, but we could do that. But for right now, I think this is where I'm going to go with that. Now, I'd like to see this just a little sharper. I think you're right at the edge of your focus stack with that. So I'm going to flatten this. And then I want to make another layer, duplicate layer. And I'm going to sharpen it using the method we learned by making a, by making a high-pass filter layer. So remember, what we do first is we drop the color. So we come here to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate. And now we're going to come to Filter, Other, High Pass. And again, on this low-res image, it's not going to take very much. On your high-res original, it's going to take a little more setting to make this work. So we're going to say OK. We'll turn this into an overlay. Look how much sharper that looks. Let me do a snapshot here and go from what we just did to, all the way back to our original. Let's just go from here to our flattened version. There we go. Can you see that change? See how that sharpened up all those midtones? Now, I don't necessarily want to sharpen up all of this background. So I can now come in, I can make this top layer a layer mask, use a black brush, and come in as much as possible and just soften that background down a touch. Going to need a little more than 12% to make that work well. It's not much because it was pretty sharp to begin with, but it does help take some of that edge off. Now, If I really want to soften that, here's what we've got. Let's look over here at these layers for a minute. Here's my sharpened layer. Here's my layer mask with this showing through. Okay? If I duplicate this, I have increased that sharpness. But now, I can come through and drop that background if that's what I wanted. I understand. This was to fulfill an assignment in focus stacking. But when you get a shot that's all sharp and you look at it and you go, man, I really should have shot that with selective focus, here's a way you can do it. It's one of the things I love about digital. If this were in film, what you shot's what you got. In the digital world, that's not necessarily true. We can change it. So that brings us to the last shot for this assignment. You guys did, certainly in a technical sense, you certainly got your focus stack down. Practice it. You can use it for macro shots. You can use it for landscapes. You can use it for any kind of shot where you want to shoot with the sharpest setting on your lens, the sweet spot of your lens, but that's not giving you the depth of field that you want. Now you've got a tool that you can deal with that. So I'll see you in the next module. Take care.